Jimmy seems to have it all. A successful business, a terrific group of friends, and a loving family. However, he's losing his hair, which he knew was going to happen because his father lost interest in hair care in his 30s, and his younger brother is already beginning to go bald. Now that Jimmy has a choice to make, he can either embrace his baldness or resist it. In this video, I'm going to explain why it's important to be bald. So, buckle up because this is about to get intense. Male hair loss patterns. In the beginning, most men had a full head of hair. Male balding has a distinctive pattern. There's one variation of this pattern in which the hair retreats backwards from the forehead all the way to the crown. This pattern is where the hair first shows signs of balding at the temples with slow, steady regression of the hairline. At some point, hair on the crown then begins to thin slowly. Bald patches from the temple and crown meet in the middle, leading to baldness at the top of the scalp. Making the proper diagnosis is important because androgenetic alopecia, the most prevalent kind of hair loss in men, can be treated. The medical term for hair loss is alopecia. There are other types of hair loss, but they have quite distinct patterns. For instance, iron deficiency might cause widespread hair thinning throughout the scalp. But another type of hair loss just affects one particular area of the scalp. Androgenetic refers to hormones like testosterone. A family physician or dermatologist can determine the appropriate diagnosis by carefully examining the pattern of hair loss. So what causes baldness in men? Okay, let's discuss the factors that lead to this kind of hair loss. In essence, male pattern balding is a hereditary disorder. One study examined identical and non-identical twins and discovered that genetics account for 81% of male pattern hair loss. We can't totally blame either the mother's side or the father's side because many genes on both sides can cause hair loss. So what does this hair loss actually look like at the microscopic level? Hair grows in stages. The first phase is the growth phase, during which our hair follicles produce chains of a tough protein called keratin. This phase typically lasts between 2 and 6 years and results in thick hair. After the hair has reached maturity, it briefly transitions to the resting phase, during which the hair just hangs around for about 3 months. In balding men, the hair follicles are overly sensitive to DHT, a close relative of testosterone. DHT shortens the growth phase of some hair follicles. As a result, hairs that were once long and thick become shorter and thinner because they have less time to grow. This sensitivity to DHT seems to affect some parts of the scalp more than others, resulting in the classic hair loss pattern that we previously discussed. Myths about baldness. One of the most widespread misconceptions is that balding men experience hair loss because they have higher testosterone levels than other guys. Another misconception is that having sex might cause hair loss. However, we do know that performance-enhancing drugs like anabolic steroids and testosterone definitely increase the risk of hair loss because they artificially boost androgen hormones in our body. This is because balding and non-balding men have similar testosterone levels. It's just that balding men tend to convert more of their testosterone to DHT, and their hair follicles are more sensitive to DHT than non-balding men. How prevalent is male pattern hair loss? Male pattern baldness is fairly prevalent. Approximately 1 in 2 adult men in their 40s show visible degrees of balding. Most men will have some degree of baldness throughout their lifetimes, but the rate at which this hair loss occurs varies greatly. Male pattern baldness only becomes apparent once half of the hair follicles have been affected. So if you think you're starting to go bald, you may already be halfway there. But keep in mind that male pattern baldness only becomes noticeable once half of the hair follicles have been affected. Some men can begin losing hair in their early 20s, while other men can keep their hair well into their 60s. Hair loss can have significant psychological repercussions, ranging from feelings of unattractiveness to outright depression. Some men embrace their new fuss-free hair routine with ease, but there are some of us who can feel incredibly embarrassed and self-conscious. Now, when discussing hair loss treatment choices, there's a ton of information to cover. Fortunately, for people who are disturbed by their hair loss, there are treatments to help. And the sooner treatment is started, the more likely we are to preserve our hair. So with that said, as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. If you want to see me do a video on hair loss treatment, make sure you press that like button and let me know in the comments the treatments that you'd like me to talk about.